Well, as the Beatles sing, you say it's your birthday, it's my birthday too. Well, no, it's not actually my birthday, but this week is the third birthday of Bernie Drops the Needle. Yes, this YouTube channel has been going on now for 3 years. Can you believe it? It's hard to even think about. We're approaching almost 1,000 subscribers, and I want to thank each and every one of you. I really am appreciative of the fact that you find the channel interesting and enjoyable, that you tell your friends, and I love reading your comments. So keep them coming, and we'll see what happens next. First, let's drop the needle. Let's take a moment and reflect a little bit on how did we get here? Well, besides being a disc jockey and a record collector, I was a film cameraman, a video cameraman, a producer, a director, an editor, and I filmed stuff around the world for a variety of clients. Did a number of videos, both instructional and corporate commercial stuff. And then I became a marketing manager as digital video came in, and touted an evangelist for that and touted that to the industry and beyond. As a result, I was connected to people in the industry all around the world. And so I thought, well, let's create a YouTube channel. This will be fun. And I did. And I called it The World Is My Location. And the idea is that I would travel around the world and I would go on to movie sets where productions were being made, and I would interview the producer, the director, the cameraman, and give you a little behind the scenes on what was going on. And then I would go to industry events, also around the world, and interview the manufacturers who were bringing out all the new technology that all the creative people were going to use. It was a really exciting concept, and I actually got it to work for a very short period of time. I did launch the channel, we did have some episodes, but you know what? Then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, well, all the movie sets closed down, production stopped, the international trade events for media all vanished. There wasn't anybody to talk to. Nobody wanted to talk to you. You know, it was a very, very scary time. And so I remember one day I was sitting in my upstairs office/studio, and I was thinking, well, I don't know that I can continue to do The World Is My Location. What am I going to do? And it was almost like thousands of voices were talking to me right behind my shoulder. And I looked around and I saw all those records, and I went, yeah, that's it. I can do some shows about the classic rock that's on those vinyl records. Talk about the artist, many of who I had met and had interactions with. Talk about the songs, where the songs came from, put them in some sort of a historical context, and have a lot of fun with that. Now, when I first started this idea, I thought, oh, this will be great fun, and I'll be able, because I was a disc jockey, I'll be able to put snippets of the songs in as I'm talking about them. And even though you can find most of these songs on YouTube, I quickly learned I could not put any of that music on my YouTube channel. YouTube would claim it as a copyright violation. Now, where I fully support the right of the artist, and they should get paid. In my mind, I was thinking some of these artists haven't been played for 30, 40 years, and I'd be bringing their music to a new audience, which would mean more sales for them. But that's not how YouTube works. So I had to quickly regroup and go, okay, if I can't put any music in these shows, what am I going to do? And I decided, all right, I'm still going to talk about the music. I'm going to talk about the artists. I'm going to talk about my interaction with them. And hopefully that will find an audience. Now, for 3 years, on every Thursday. So far, we'll see what happens, I've launched a new episode. And once again, I want to thank all of you for watching. Now, I know some of you are just joining the channel, and that's great, welcome. But I want you to know there's a history here. There's 150 some episodes in the past, and I want to talk very briefly about some of those. When I went back and looked at these 150 episodes, over 100 of them are just on an individual artist or a group, and I talk about the music that they created, the songs they created, and what happened to them. So let's have a flashback. Let's go back and look at some of those artists that I talked about in those earlier episodes. Of course, there was Bob Dylan, Stephen Stills, Dave Mason, the Rolling Stones, Cat Stevens or Yusuf Islam, Graham Nash, Petula Clark, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Janis Joplin, David Crosby, The Kinks, Marianne Faithfull, Carly Simon, Neil Young, Grace Slick, Harry Nilsson, Joan Baez, both the Faces and the Small Faces, Bob Seger, Joe Cocker, Creedence Clearwater Revival, The Doors, The Lovin' Spoonful, Herman's Hermits, Simon and Garfunkel, Steppenwolf, Sir Douglas Quintet, H.P. Lovecraft, the Steve Miller Band, T-Rex, New Riders of the Purple Sage, Warren Zevon, The Pretenders, a multi-part series on the Beach Boys, the Nazz, the Strangelove, Freddie and the Dreamers, the Dave Clark Five, the Monkees, Frank Zappa, Joni Mitchell, Ry Cooder, Paul Simon, Jackson Browne, My First Love, Haley Mills, Traffic, Linda Ronstadt, Paul McCartney, Jon Stewart, Elvis, Donovan, 10cc, 10 Years After, Leon Russell, Jesse Winchester, Jimmy Buffett, the Youngbloods, Country Joe and the Fish, one of my favorite groups out of the Chicago area, but they could have been from everywhere. They're just terrific. The Crying Shames, George Harrison, The Who, Brinsley Schwartz, Jeff Lynne, The Move, ELO and the Traveling Wilburys, Ringo Starr, the Bonzo Dog Band, John Lennon, Chad and Jeremy, Buffalo Springfield, Jimi Hendrix, the Firesign Theater, Elton John, and of course my faves, the Beatles. Wow, what a list. Then there were also compilation episodes where I would talk about a couple of artists in the same episode. There are stories of meeting Neil Young, walking in on a very amorous adventure that Carly Simon and James Taylor were having in a bathroom, getting a phone call from Frank Zappa, and knowing a secret that the members of the Firesign Theater didn't know. Then there were episodes where I actually got to interview some of my faves, including a 3-part episode that I did with Tom Duty of the Crying Shames, and then Kenny Chrysler of Starbuck. And we even did some shows about what albums would you or other people like to take on that desert island. And then there's a series of episodes which I call my Magical History Tour. And what I do in here is I pick a particular year and I talk about that year, the current events, and the music that came out in that year. And I've done that for 1964, 65, 66, 67, 68, and 69. And there'll be more to come, but they require quite a bit of work. So it may be a little bit of time before we get to 1970. Now, in looking at YouTube's analytics of all of the episodes in Bernie Drops the Needle, I can't figure out what's going on with their algorithm. I don't understand why some episodes are more popular than others, but God love you guys. Keep watching them and keep telling your friends. Anyway, I thought you might be interested to know the 5 most watched episodes. And overall, the channel has had almost 85,000 views. Thank you so much. Anyway, here are the top 5. The most viewed episode is episode 82. It's called Stephen Stills, Captain Many Hands. And it's almost at 33,000 views. Next up is episode 10, The Rolling Stones' Welcome to the Breakfast Show, my story about their late night, early morning performance at the Forum in LA. Number 3 would be episode 65, Linda Ronstadt, A Different Drum. Episode 33 comes next, my interview with Kenny Chrysler of Starbuck, Moonlight Feels Right. And then the number 5 spot, Tom Duty, episode 19 from The Crying Shames, I First Saw You in a Magazine. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there are episodes that haven't been seen so much. And there are 5 that I particularly like, which I thought I'd call out attention to, because maybe you'd like to look at them on this 3rd anniversary of the channel. Episode 7, Frank Zappa, I Don't Care Whether You Believe Me or Not. This is a story of my phone conversation with Frank Zappa and the front row tickets that he gave me to a Mothers of Invention concert. Then one of my personal favorites is episode 8. It's called The Beatles, Abbey Road. It's a working studio you can't get into. But I've been inside, and I've walked around Studio 2. I've been in the control room. I had a good friend who worked there who gave me a tour and showed me the vault. Couldn't go into it, of course, where all the Beatles masters are stored. Then there's episode 55, Donovan, the Hurdy Gurdy Man. Great artist, great songs. And then I also like episode 48 on Jesse Winchester, Trapped While I'm Putting on Airs. And in this episode, you actually get to hear me playing an instrument pretty badly. If you haven't looked at episode 47, who else would say they're spending your money foolishly than the great Jimmy Buffett? Now, I did not create a Spotify playlist for this episode because basically it would be talking about all the music that I've done for 3 years, and it would be an incredibly long playlist. But I have started putting Spotify playlists on recent episodes, so at least you get to hear some of the music that I'm talking about. And I hope you find that helpful. Let me know. As always, thanks for watching. And let's all say happy birthday. And as we move to year 4 of Bernie Drops the Needle, please remember, keep a rockin'. If you like this episode, hit the like button. And you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.